Imagine charging toward an enemy fortress, confident that every single defender inside has just been brutally suffocated to death. But as you reach the walls, the gates slam open, and dozens of heavily disfigured, bloody soldiers come screaming out of the smoke, spitting out pieces of their own lungs as they charge at you with bayonets. This isn't a zombie horror movie. This is a terrifying, historically documented event from World War I known as the Attack of the Dead Men. It is a story of absolute defiance that left an entire invading army paralyzed with pure fear. The year was 1915. The German army was systematically tearing through Europe, and their next major target was Ossoet Fortress, a vital stronghold defended by a heavily outnumbered garrison of Russian soldiers. The German forces tried everything to breach the walls. They bombarded the fortress with heavy artillery for months, firing thousands of shells, but the defenders refused to surrender. Realizing that a conventional military assault was failing, the German High Command decided to deploy a cowardly and devastating new weapon, chlorine gas. They waited for the wind to turn toward the fortress, and at 4 a.m. they released a massive green cloud of poison. The Russian soldiers inside had absolutely no protection. Gas masks hadn't been widely distributed yet, so the men were completely exposed. As the toxic chlorine gas flooded the trenches, it literally turned into acid upon contact with the moisture in their eyes, throats, and lungs. The soldiers began to chemically burn from the inside out. Their skin turned black, their eyes started bleeding, and they began coughing up blood and pieces of their own dissolved lungs. Within minutes, the fortress fell completely silent. Believing that every single defender was dead, the German commander ordered a full infantry assault. Over 7,000 German soldiers advanced toward the ruins, rifles ready, expecting to walk over a graveyard. But as the German vanguard reached the front-line trenches, the impossible happened. Out of the green, toxic mist, the surviving remnants of the Russian 13th Company emerged. There were barely 60 men left alive. Their faces were wrapped in bloody rags, their skin was melting off their bones, and they were literally choking on their own blood. Yet, instead of falling down to die, they fixed their bayonets, let out a guttural, terrifying scream, and charged directly into the 7,000 German troops. It was a counterattack by men who knew they were already dead, and they had absolutely nothing left to lose. The sight of these blood-drenched, melting phantoms charging out of the poison cloud completely broke the psychology of the German army. The invading soldiers were gripped by an absolute primal terror. They genuinely believed they were being attacked by the living dead. Panic ripped through the German lines. Men dropped their weapons and began sprinting backward in total chaos. The retreat was so panicked that German soldiers trampled each other, tripped over their own barbed wire, and fell into their own trenches, crushed by the weight of their own fleeing army. 60 dying men had successfully routed an entire elite invasion force. Most of those brave defenders died just a few hours after the battle, their lungs completely destroyed by the chemical weapon. But they saved the fortress and etched their names into the darkest pages of military history. It is proof that in the heat of battle, the most powerful weapon is not technology, artillery, or poison. It is the unbreakable human spirit of men who refuse to yield, even when death has already claimed them. If you were standing in those trenches, facing an army that refused to die, would you have stood your ground or run for your life? Let's talk in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more hardcore historical battles.